like Videotron, they have like similar ones. They have like these stuff. The rest of it is supposed to be community. It's not, because that requires that somebody does the coordinating. No, what they want to do is they just want to take the money out of the cost. When you have a position, sorry? Well, that's but in this case they can't do this because there's a 2% at least each one of these people put into this fund. The Videotron has to put 2% of the corporation is the same thing as the security gets funded from a similar fund. You have 4% labor that has to come every year and you have to monitor their into this fund for community radio stations, UNIS can apply with funding so they can have but the that covers this is funded by the corporation. It's enforced by the government. This happens in TV and it's actually multimedia. And they force them but they never advertise on that. Nobody knows that it exists. Videotron, Bell, why? Because at that time, the economy was so now it's we're going to establish an alternative channel. We're saying Videotron proved that they failed over the past few years. leaders would not agree because they promised certain things to their officers and they never fulfilled any of them. Producers and directors and whatever and they never did that. So we're saying that, listen, they're already leaving history or Videotron failing to fulfill its promises. And we think that they should give us a chance now instead of giving us. Maybe it will work out. I don't know. We'll see it. I mean, it will take a bit of time. We already did intervention. And we asked for 60 days extension. Not only that, I mean, when their application in process, there was only 38 winners in the CRTC. Out of the whole thing, whether they're for or against, there was only 38. And I know, but did you know about it? That there was a hearing for the CRTC for Videotron? You didn't, because that's exactly what we're saying. Because the hearings are saying they should have advertised enough people to know that they have the chance to now object against or whatever. Well, we didn't know until last second. Because of cactus, because they contacted us because of CTV. And they said, what's going on? CTV is actually supporting Videotron. We're like, what? Every time they're like, they said, I'll try to get CTV. So now they're supporting Videotron's application, basically. Well, this is what's so weird. What Lake was doing, CTV applied for, was in the process of applying for this when all of this stuff happened with CTV fell apart. And then all of a sudden, Videotron said,
j'ai occupé d'envoyer des choses par Internet quand on était en live streaming. Donc là, on arrive au bout de la soirée. David Rovics, que vous connaissez parce que vous êtes là. Donc, je ne prendrai pas votre temps.
Shale gas, all the fuel you might desire coming out so fast. No time to lay pipeline, Eureka-ville, it's like the days of 49, except this time they're using massive rigs that poison everything more thoroughly. The deeper that it digs, trains a mile long. Loaded up in rail cars, send them west, send them east, past cafe schools and late night bars. There's an oil train coming through your town. There were dangers, they knew this from the start, but they were minimal. They said everyone must play their part and risk the destruction of their cities. Each time a train rolls by, hope it won't derail and detonate sky high. There's an accident each day somewhere, but we're not supposed to fear that it could happen here. Listen closely, do you hear that whistle blow? Look out the window, do you see the fire glow? There's an oil train coming through your town. It was after midnight on a Saturday night. A resident called in that a rail car was alight with that much gas. Sitting by the lake, it was no one's job to watch the car that maintained the brake on 73. Massive tanks of fracking gas down the hill, gaining speed as they rolled past. Now at the UNIS Cafe that once was on Roof Frontenac, there are 50 customers and employees who won't be coming back. There's an oil train coming through your town. There's an oil train coming through your town. Let's see, maybe it's okay? The bass is okay? Let's see here. To a song that was inspired by the Republican debates, which are a lot like the Democratic debates, except slightly more entertaining. I turned on my TV, though it was hard to see these men who would be head of state. What a great country from sea to shining sea. We watched the Republicans debate. Newt stood with his third wife and said, "You bet your life the president is a red. He wants to tax the rich a lot, take your limo and your yacht. He wants to have the bankers' heads. And if he gets in again, he'll paint the White House pink, and then he'll hire Chavez as his VP. Then we'll be right on track to give capitalism a sack, along with the insurance industry. If only it were true, if only it were true, I'd be so happy, wouldn't you? If only it were true, if only it were true, if only it were true. He'll give everyone food stamps and wheelchair ramps. He'll subsidize windows and maple syrup. He'll cripple industries with eco-friendly policies, and pretty soon we will be just like Europe. He'll shut down oil wells, give out solar cells to every home in Delaware and Illinois. He'll ban logging in the parks. He'll send the works of Karl Marx to the homes of every American girl and boy. He'll abolish pesticides. He'll be giving out free rides and free lunches too in his high-speed trains. He'll start lots of public works full of union perks. He'll fill all the cities up with bicycle lanes. If only it were true, if only it were true, I'd be so happy, wouldn't you? If only it were true, if only it were true, if only it were true. Watch out, his critics tell, this shall be our death knell. He'll pull the troops out and end all of our wars. He'll cut military spending, our empire will be ending, and soon we'll be invaded by the Moors. He'll legalize all drugs, give away beer mugs and hookahs to every child, and Korans. He'll ban religions from the schools, give 40 acres and a mule to every person who makes less than 50 grand. He'll close Guantanamo to torture, he'll say no. He'll make us all drive electric cars. He'll reinstate the fairness doctrine, take off that damn flag pin, and he'll put Rupert Murdoch behind bars. If only it were true, if only it were true, I'd be so happy, wouldn't you? If only it were true, if only it were true, if only it were true. If only it were true, if only it were true, I'd be so happy, wouldn't you? If only it were true, if only it were true, if only it were true. Just a little less in the monitors. Thank you. Thank you. And let's see. These are all sing-alongs, but of course it's only a sing-along if you know the words. Otherwise, it's hard to sing along. So they may or may not be sing-alongs, but here's a true story about the first time the U.S. invaded Mexico. My name is John Ryan. I'll have you here only a while. I left my dear home in Ireland. It was death, starvation, or exile. When I got to America, it was my duty to go. Enter the army and slog across Texas to join in the war against Mexico. And it was there in the pueblos and hillsides that I saw the mistake I had made. Part of a conquering army with the morals of a bayonet blade. And there amidst all these poor dying Catholics, screaming children, the burning stench of it all, myself and 200 Irishmen decided to rise to the call. From Dublin City to San Diego, we witnessed freedom denied. So we formed the St. Patrick Battalion and we fought on the Mexican side. We formed the St. Patrick Battalion and we fought on the Mexican side. We marched beneath the green flag of St. Patrick, emblazoned with Erin-Gold-Rod, right with the harp and the shamrock and the rattan Republica. Just 50 years after Wolftown, 5,000 miles away, the Yanks called us a legion of strangers, and they can talk as they may. But from Dublin City to San Diego, we witnessed freedom denied. So we formed the St. Patrick Battalion and we fought on the Mexican side. We formed the St. Patrick Battalion and we fought on the Mexican side. We fought them in Matamoros, where their volunteers were raping the nuns. In Monterrey and Cerro Gordo, we fought on as Ireland's sons. We were the red-headed fighters for freedom amidst these brown-skinned women and men. Side by side we fought against tyranny, and I dare say we'd do it again. From Dublin City to San Diego, we witnessed freedom denied. So we formed the St. Patrick Battalion and we fought on the Mexican side. We formed the St. Patrick Battalion and we fought on the Mexican side. Was the last, overwhelmed by the cannons from Boston, we fell after each mortar blast. Most of us died on that hillside at the service of the Mexican state. So far from our occupied homeland, we were heroes and victims of fate. From Dublin City to San Diego, we witnessed freedom denied. So we formed the St. Patrick Battalion and we fought on the Mexican side. To San Diego, we witnessed freedom denied. So we formed the St. Patrick Battalion and we fought on the Mexican side. We formed the St. Patrick Battalion and we fought on the Mexican side. I'll do it. Do a song I wrote to alienate the youth. because they run on gas. But if I did, it'd run on biomass. I ride a bike, or sometimes a skateboard. So fuck off all you drivers and your yucky hordes, sitting all day in the traffic queues. I'm a better anarchist than you. I don't eat meat, I just live on moldy chives or the donuts that I found in last week's dumpster dives. Look, you people in that restaurant, I think you are so sad when you could have been eating bagels like the ones that I just had. I think it is a shame all the bourgeois things you do. I'm a better anarchist than you. I don't wear leather and I like my clothes in black, and I made a really cool hammock from a moldy coffee sack. I like to hop on freight trains, I think that is so cool. It's so much funner doing this than being stuck in school. I can't believe you're wearing those brand new shiny shoes. I'm a better anarchist than you. I don't have sex, and there will be no sequel, because heterosexual relationships are inherently unequal. I'll just keep on moshing to anti-flag and crafts until there are no differences in gender, race, or class. All you brainwashed breeders, you just haven't got a clue. I'm a better anarchist than you. I don't believe in leaders, I think consensus is the key. I don't believe in stupid notions like representative democracy. Whether or not it works, I know it is the case that only direct action can save the human race. So when I see you in your bowling booth, then I know it's true. I'm a better anarchist than you. I am not a pacifist, I like throwing bricks, and when the cops have caught me and I'm taking a few licks, I always feel lucky if I get a bloody nose, because I feel so militant and everybody knows. By the time the riot is all through, I'm a better anarchist than you. I'm a better anarchist than you. Everybody knows one.
Yeah, but they're not here.
Not one. So I was trying to get a visa to get into Australia, and a friend of mine from Brisbane, Australia, wrote and said there's a court case going on now that needs a song, and I was reading about this case, and it occurred to me that 10 million people with sledgehammers could really change everything, I think. True story. I watched it on the TV. Machine guns, fire towards the ground. I watched the people run. Helicopter gunship, strafing the street. I watched them lining up the bodies in the Baghdad heat. They say these leaks had consequences, I must agree. When I saw them fire on the children, it affected me. I thought, what if I were wearing the other shoe? If I had a hammer, what would I do? I am just a person, like anyone. I am just another mother's son. I have no special powers, I cannot fly, not like that helicopter gunship up in the sky, sending all those bullets all around to the journalists and children on the ground. I am just one man, that's very true. But if I had a hammer, what would I do? I care? But then the answer seems so obvious. There are people down there. And right here in Queensland, there's an army base, and there's a helicopter gunship just sitting in place. There's a time for watching, there's a time to act. It's just gonna kill more children if it remains intact. I am just one person, but you are too. And if you had a hammer, what would you do? If you had a hammer, what would you do? Well, it is a true story that before the U.S. invaded Mexico, it invaded Canada, and didn't go very well. I mean, depending on, didn't really go very well for anyone, but it went especially badly for the United States. And I visited the grave of one General Robert Ross in Halifax, and then was also staying in Ross Trevor in County Down in Ireland at the home of Tommy Sands. And Tommy was telling me that they the local town council was asking him if he'd write a song about General Ross, and he just couldn't quite think about writing a song for a rich Protestant, but I thought, I think I have an angle for this song. Robert Ross was from Ross Trevor. He was born in County Down. His family was given land there by the British Crown. He was a man born of the gentry, born with wealth and fame, but he joined the British Army to serve his queen and make his name. In the Napoleonic Wars, he fought on many lands, in Holland and in Spain and the far-off Egyptian sands. He was wounded there in battle, came back to fight another day, and he was sent off to attack the USA. York had been sacked and burned by invading Yankee men, but the Canadians regrouped, chased the Yankees home, and then the British Navy made its way to the shores of D.C. town, where General Ross burned the White House down. It was 1814, the U.S. was in retreat. It was a Canadian victory, an American defeat. Without the French to help them, they got their ass whipped by the Crown when General Ross burned the White House down. The place had just been constructed only 12 years before, but it had to be rebuilt soon after this disastrous war. The president turned tail and ran like a raggedy clown when General Ross burned the White House down. He was killed a few months later. Irish rebels stopped him in his tracks. He was buried in Nova Scotia, in the town of Halifax. He might have been forgotten, but he'll forever be renowned. He's the man who burned the White House down. He's the man who burned the White House down. Then, a few decades later, people in the U.S. realized they were still living in a feudal state and paying rent to landlords for hundreds of years and never getting their land. There were no small farmers, only tenant farmers. It was just like in Europe. And then in Europe, all the countries around Europe overthrew their monarchies in the same year, in 1848, except for Britain and Russia, but everybody else pretty good for 1 year, and then by then a rent strike had been happening in New York State for 9 years. The patroons came from Holland to America, became landlords where none had been before. So what man owned 500,000 acres on both sides of the Hudson River shore. He invited families to move in and give him 30% of everything they grew every year. This is how they pay the rent. His name was Rensselaer. He became one of the richest men on earth. In today's terms, $90 billion is how much he'd be worth. All this for doing nothing, but saying all of this was his. I have the power of the state behind me, and I'm in the landlord biz. After 200 years of this, and one revolution won, another Rensselaer had another son. And this Rensselaer was greedier than his ancestors dead and past. It was the 1840s and things were changing fast. It was the straw that broke the back. The bottle was uncorked. They started organizing meetings, the tenant farmers of New York. They found the strength of numbers. They found the power of suggestion. They found each other asking the same question. Who gave you the right to be a landlord? To live a life of ease while others toil? Who gave you the right to be a rich man while the rest of us pay you so we can work this soil? They vowed they would stop the rent collection. They vowed they'd bring this madness to an end. And what one blew the tin horn of distress, he soon found he had 1,000 friends. With calico skirts, masks upon their faces, on horseback, armed with knives and guns. They chanted and they yelled and they kept their farms, and they kept the sheriffs on the run. They asked, who gave you the right to be a landlord? To live a life of ease while others toil? Who gave you the right to be a rich man while the rest of us pay you so we can work this soil? Governors, militias tried to stop them, but nothing could be done to break their will. And by 1848 the landlords buckled, sold their holdings to the farmers in the hills. Yes, they overthrew this feudal system, but it's replaced now by speculators and banks. And you can still hear the homeless families asking of all the landed gentry in our ranks, who gave you the right to be a landlord? To live a life of ease while others toil? Who gave you the right to be a rich man while the rest of us pay you so we can work this soil? Who gave you the right to be a landlord? To live a life of ease while others toil? Who gave you the right to be a rich man while the rest of us pay you so we can work this soil? Who gave you the right? I've been on a tour now since late August, but it was supposed to include 13 countries, but it only included 12 because New Zealand wouldn't let me in. I should be gigging in New Zealand now, but I'm not. I'm stuck at Narita instead. I should be singing in Dunedin, smoking kiwi pot and chilling with the Kiwi Reds. When I showed up at the airport to board my flight, I was handed somebody's cell phone. Suddenly the future didn't look so bright, and I entered the twilight zone. The woman on the line said, hello, I'm from immigration. You may have a ticket, but you can't go to our great island nation. I felt like I'd been hit in the face with a big old kiwi log, but then I felt the Stassi's cold embrace when she said, I've been reading your blog. The spies are reading my blog, the introduction to the prologue, and if that's so, it just might be true that they're watching this video too. Well, I I normally don't get many views, a few hundred friends and kooks. So it comes as surprising news that some of them are Kiwi spooks. I try to get my missives out and cause some small commotion. Someone's listening now, there's no doubt, across the South Pacific Ocean. The spies are reading my blog, the introduction and the prologue. And if that's so, it just might be true that they're watching this video too. Were you strip searched in Trondheim, she asked. What kinds of things do you smoke? Have you ever been charged with a crime? Are you rich or are you broke? Have you ever been turned away from any borders you tried to cross? What kind of venues did you plan to play? Do you use dental floss? I said, it seems a bit unusual for you to do things quite this way. I asked her, is this normal? But she wouldn't say, she'd just repeat her message. Hadn't I read it, you shall remain. I've read your blog, each bio passage, and you may not board that plane. The spies are reading my blog, the introduction and the prologue. And if that's so, it just might be true that they're watching this video too. They're watching this video too.
Passport, then you're okay.
And of course, the NSA is reading all of our blogs. Secretive government had a secret operation massacring villages, killing millions, secretly bombing an entire nation. They wiretapped a hotel room, they got caught, and the government was deposed because of secret documents Daniel Ellsberg exposed. One government came down to the repetition of this fact. The next government passed the Freedom of Information Act. Each administration since then hoped it would go away. Then they finally seized the chance on a September day. They passed the Patriot Act before a single congressman had read it. But don't ask the executive how they interpret it, because that itself is secret, never to be revealed, just like there's secret prisons and all the torture they conceal. Then they formed a prison program so they wouldn't even have to ask compliant corporations to assist them in the task of collecting information. Every email you ever wrote, every book you ever read, every call you ever made, everything you ever said. I looked into a prison. What did I see? A police state looking back at me. The secret government then lied to congressional committees. Secret information even a senator can't see. Secret bureaucrats working with secret corporations, enforcing secret laws, forming secret juries to serve a secret cause. I looked into a prism. What did I see? A police state looking back at me. One brave man came forward and then he fled town. Now the secret government men mean to hunt him down. Feinstein says he's a traitor. McConnell said so too. But I'd say if we have a future, it's because of the whistle that he blew. I looked into a prism. What did I see? A police state looking back at me. I looked into a prism. What did I see? A police state looking back at me. I'll do one more and then take a break, and then I'll do a second set after that. So everywhere I go, they keep having elections, and it's a very common habit. And in Australia, the main two contenders were both clearly and, I mean, legally speaking, in terms of international law, they were both criminal organizations. A lot like Golden Dawn, except, you know, they don't call them criminal organizations. You know. And the slightly more progressive of the two criminal organizations was advocating for putting asylum seekers, as they like to call them, or otherwise known as victims of human trafficking, otherwise known traditionally under international law as refugees, but we can't use that word anymore, apparently, or Murdoch can't. And they want to put the victims of human trafficking in indefinite detention in malaria-ridden jail cells with no possibility of a hearing in places like Nauru and Christmas Island, because apparently Australia is not big enough to find a place to put asylum seekers.
Well, they don't have a Guantanamo.
Yeah, but yeah, they do have a lot of Guantanamo. And then the less progressive, I guess you could say, of the two parties, their program is not to put people seeking asylum in refugee camps with no trial or hearing, but to turn the boats back, to tow them back to the war zones from which they came, to tow people fleeing the wars in Sri Lanka and Syria and Iraq and elsewhere back to those countries. And that's the party that won. And of course, like North America, it's especially strange for this debate to be happening in Australia, which is about 99% vote people from Europe. My mother's parents came here on a boat. They came from a land of kings and queens, but on the wrong side of the moat. My father's parents came here on 1-2. They didn't want to leave Austria, but it was the thing for Jews to do. I don't know your story, but I bet it's more or less the same. What kind of war or famine was on when your family came before their ship arrived? Did your folks come here to discover and explore, or were they refugees running from the war? Did they cross the freezing mountains to make it to the sea, all the while wishing that they never had to flee? Were they marched across the jungles with chains around their feet, nearly dying of exhaustion in the desert heat before their ship arrived? Did they make a life here, or were they kidnapped and detained, held for years in limbo as their optimism waned? Were they turned down for asylum and told they shouldn't lie, then sent off to be tortured, sent back home to die? Did they get to move here, create their lives anew, or are they held in Christmas Island, asking what on earth they can do before their ship arrives? Before their ship arrives.
Gracias.